Speaking of one of my favourites here at Sky News, none other than James Morrow. You can see him with the US report on a Friday, wake up with him on a Sunday, cuddle in with him on a Tuesday night. You can also read him in the Daily Telegraph and equally all of those wonderful things and lovely things to be said about Holly Hughes, of course, the Liberal Senator from New South Wales. So, every now and then there's a conversation about whether Australia should follow the American system and have a debates commission for elections. Now, this, of course, is all just a way to guarantee that the ABC gets a debate. Now, when the Liberal Party's in power, generally speaking, they don't end up debating on the ABC. That's certainly not what happened last time. So, James, unbelievably now, the ABC is asking that the federal government pass a law that guarantees that every single election cycle, one debate is held on the ABC. Because, God forbid, anyone watched Sky News Regional for a People's Forum or happened to watch Channel 7 late at night, and Channel 9 is apparently unholy, unless Channel 2 gets a debate that's not a real election.
Well, I know, Paul. I mean, how funny is this to get $1.234 billion of our tax money, and now they want a debate. They want to own the debate process themselves. I mean, it just goes to show you, though, how utterly inept ABC management is, that they think, oh, well, this is what we need to be doing. This is how we show our relevance. You know, the last set of debates, I got to say, were, except for the one here on Sky News, complete snoozers. So why would they want to try and replicate that? But, you know, also the thing is, too, debates don't move the needle in the way that, you know, a lot of people, including, I suspect, some ABC executives do. I mean, remember how many times John Howard lost debates and he kept winning and winning and winning because, you know, oh, well, he just wasn't, you know, good for TV, you know, come on, but he was good for the country. Am I right? So, you know, this is the ABC not getting it, the ABC trying to be self-important. If the ABC wants to compete for debates, it should give up its tax dollars and go compete with all the other networks just like we do.
Well, but also here, Holly, they're going to get one. As if Albo, who of course will be Prime Minister for the next 32 years, according to the opinion polls in the press gallery, just ask anyone, they don't have to worry about it because the first stop will be Ultimo on the way from Marrickville. It's not that far.
Oh, look, you just made me shudder with Albo for 32 years. Can you imagine how bad things are going to be then? I don't
this
think
show
any
will
of us
be fun.
Living here. Oh, well, we always have fun, doll. We don't need Albo for that. But honestly, I mean, if the ABC needs things to be written into legislation outside of the obscene amount of funding they receive to ensure they get a debate, absolutely not. I mean, as James just said, they should compete with everybody else. Potentially they should compete for some advertising dollars for some of these spin-off networks they want as well.
Yeah, now also, James, yet another example of an organisation telling everyone else that terms like mother and father, mum and dad, not acceptable anymore. Now, look, let's be very clear for anyone who's half listening and ready to run off and report us to the umpire, OK? If you want to use whatever pronoun you want, feel free, all right? Tell your mates, hey, look, just don't call me this, call me that. OK, fine. But should every single form be changed for a minority that, well, the census is trying hard to find as being any bigger than a football stadium in an entire country of 25 million, James? But the groups now say no mum, no dad, no father, no mother.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I think, Paul, you make a really good point because I can feel all these thumbs on the phones getting ready to start tweeting about all this. But, you know, most people have really good will and, you know, people want to be called something, whatever. I respect that. I'm not, you know, going to be, you know, a pain about that. But what people really, yeah, exactly right. You know, do what you like. You know, God bless you. But here's the thing. What people really do object to is two things. Well, number one, the rewriting of the language so that it appears to erase women who do, I'm sorry, have a pretty special experience when it comes to the whole parenthood thing. Let's, you know, not ignore that. So to reduce them to uterus having co-parents or whatever they're called, you know, that's a bit insulting. But number two, I think what people really object to is this whole idea that we all have to be on guard because there are these sort of committees and Central Soviets that decide what the language is this week, and next week it'll be something different. And if you fall afoul of that, then, you know, you're cancelled or you're in trouble or you're, you know, made to do some sort of re-education thing with Maoist self-criticisms by your HR department or whatever it is, you know, but people are just tired of that. And when it becomes this sort of advocacy, it's not helping minorities. It's not helping people who are going through issues. It's just driving everybody nuts.
Well, also, Holly, as you know, you go anywhere near a government department, you can read everything in every possible different language, all the rest of it, right? But the standardised language is English. Now, if somebody wants to turn around and say, look, don't give me the birth certificate for everyone else. I want the birth certificate that has primary caregiver 1 or primary caregiver 2. All right, fine. You can have 5 of them, because you probably won't need that many of them, but still 5 of them printed under the desk, and you can hand them out as they go along. But the idea that, I mean, again, when I go home and, you know, wake up the kids for a good night kiss, alas, a terrible habit that I'm into, when they say, love you, Daddy, I go, primary caregiver 1, thank you.
You know what? I am a mother. I had 3 children. I breastfed all of them. Outrageously, I did that without a paid parental leave scheme. And I actually took time out of work for a number of years. So you want to talk about gender pay gap? I'll tell you why I've got a gender pay gap. Is I spent about 8 years at home with my children as the primary caregiver, because I wanted to, not because anyone made me to. I wanted to be there for the very early years of my children's life. For whatever reason, I had 3 under 3.5. But, you know, I'm about to have very big surgery soon to rectify some things because I'm a mother, not because I'm a parent or a caregiver or whatever.
Okay, you
Let
win.
me tell you, you want to erase women?
No.
I'll hand over some of the fun stuff that goes with it, guys.
I appreciate the insight that you've given us. I always appreciate honesty on this program, maximum honesty, if you will. And
I just wish the 3 of us were in the same studio so I could give you a big hug and point out how I have no core anymore.
Right. All right, otherwise we'll just get you a cold set of peas and we'll get through to the rest of the show.
Oh,
Okay?
no,
Quick break.
God, Paul, it's my stomach.
You're on Paul Murray Live. Please go to a break, for goodness sake. Save me and everyone watching. More in a sec. Media Watch. You will find out more if you missed it in a couple of minutes' time with the great man and the world according to he. Now let's quickly talk about Swampy Joe here. Now our old mate Swampy Joe, the one of course who defies gravity by falling up the stairs, President Joseph R. Biden. Now remember, Donald Trump used to be criticised a lot for playing golf on the weekends and not being in the White House. This was an example of him not being serious about his job. If only somebody would do better. Please welcome Joseph R. Biden, who, guess what, has spent more time off since Donald Trump over the same period of time of about 2 years of being president. Now, of course, all of this is because they take him back for, I don't know, deep freezing or whatever they do, or replace him with another living corpse out of his house in Delaware. They do this every sort of second weekend to recharge the batteries. But all of this, of course, distracts from real news around Joe Biden, and even more evidence coming out that he well knew about the business activities of Hunter Biden, Tony Bobulinski, who was, of course, the whistleblower, great source of information on the Tucker Carlson interviews and in Miranda Devine's book about all of this, as well as a bunch of Republicans are now coming forward to say Joe Biden was well and truly aware of what was happening here. So watch this space when they eventually get control of the lower house and therefore can start to have a few investigations into these things. James Morrow's here with Holly Hughes. Now, before we go, I want to talk about yet again another example of our failing schools. Now, Holly, both sides of politics, state and federal, have told everyone for as long as we have ever paid attention that they are spending more money than ever before, or they are tweaking this or they are tweaking that. But guess what? Yet more evidence that our standards are going backwards, and particularly kids can't write anymore.
And look, it's getting worse. And I think it's getting worse because we have this sort of woke curriculum. I think I refer to it as being run by Marxists, which got me a video on Insiders. So, you know,
dreams
I'll
do
see what
come
I can
true.
do this. I'll see what I can do for you tonight here around this. But we've now got Julia Gillard is going to run a royal commission in South Australia about early childhood education and what we're doing. The reality about education, we know what works. There's been lots and lots of studies done about children, how they learn, what they learn and how they learn best. We know kids all learn differently. Some learn by listening, some learn by doing, some learn by visual explanation. Yet when we go into the classroom, they're all still learning in exactly the same way as every other kid. So maybe we actually need to start looking at how do we teach kids and not just bundling them all together by their alphabet or their surname, but actually looking at the kids that learn in different ways to see whether that would help. But let's start teaching them the basics again, not worrying about all this extra climate change, woke agenda. Oh, we can't teach them anymore about how Australia was settled by the British and James Cook because we need to, read Dark Emu now. So, I mean, it's just insanity that we're not teaching them the basics. They don't know where a comma goes.
Well, that's it. But also, I mean, James, today the Singaporean Prime Minister was doing a deal about green energy or something like that with Anthony Albanese. You know the deal we should be doing with Singapore? About learning about their education system.
Their curriculum's pretty good up there.
Their curriculum is pretty good, but also their culture is pretty good. I was in Singapore the other week, and in the airport was a big sign, about, and there was like a kid endorsing a cereal who had topped some huge nationwide exam. Like, their entire culture is entirely different. It's not just what we teach, Holly, but it's how we teach it, and we know it works. Classroom discipline. We are the worst in the OECD, or among the worst in the OECD, because the teachers can't control the classroom. We don't do the phonics stuff. We're only just starting to do that stuff again. We don't do memorization. We don't do classroom discipline. We don't do teacher-directed learning. All the stuff that's unfashionable because it doesn't fit in with the whole, Marxist, Paulo Freire pedagogy of the oppressed that influences so much of our teachers' colleges. But the one last thing about this is, too, both sides also, we have this attitude, well, we need skilled people. We'll just import them, screw the kids. They don't need an education. Well, that is, I think, also part of this. We need a real attitude. We grow skills natively here in Australia.
James, you just used too many words the ABC doesn't understand. I don't think you're getting a video on Insiders after that one.
Oh.
God love you guys. Thank you very much. Do appreciate it. That's our show for tonight. I think I'll be in plenty of trouble, so hopefully back tomorrow. Fingers crossed. In the meantime, Rowan